Good morning.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is the top of the Wednesday hour at 10 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time, and we're back again. This is Cup of Joe for the Cup of Joe Morning Show. And listen, happy pre-Thanksgiving to everybody who might be listening. I think it's a time for family. It's a time for eating. It's a time for literally being thankful for what we have, even if we sometimes feel we don't have enough. We got more than enough. So listen, guys, we have a wonderful Power Pack show here this morning. And I would be remiss if I didn't just turn my camera over just a little bit. You guys can see me when you tune in.
Good morning. Good morning.
I got a special guest in the house today, you guys, and we're gonna bring her on in just a moment and discuss a few things. But first, let's do a little housekeeping. I want my man Malcolm in the middle, aka Malcolm Action Jackson. What's going on with you, brother?
Oh man, it's been a beautiful morning thus far, and I'm ready to get it done with already, though. Even though it's beautiful.
Hey,
I want it over so I can go and do some free time.
I got you, man. Well, we're gonna tie you up for the next couple of hours. That's all good.
Let's go.
But listen, we want you also to tune in. I know some are going to be tuning in via our Facebook blast that I'm putting on Facebook post here now. And thank you, Cindy, for running that for me. I see a couple of people are jumping on already, but we really want you guys, the listening audience, to tune in on Real Talk 100 Radio. Here right on Facebook. We're going live on Facebook, simultaneously on Instagram, and if I'm not mistaken, on YouTube as well, right?
Only on YouTube and Facebook.
Facebook and YouTube this morning, and that's cool. So listen, we want you to tune in every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time, because we want to give you some news that you can use, some information that can change your situation. And with that being said, I'm not trying to rhyme; those just came out that way. But I do have my good friend with me, who is no stranger to doing good business. Before I give you her resume, I'm not going to give you her resume. I'll just tell you that she is a veteran, retired Air Force, if I'm not mistaken.
Not retired.
Oh, not retired.
Air Force veteran.
Air Force veteran. See, I always assumed
wish.
that I thought you were retired, but I guess that's an assumption on my part. Well, she serves in the United States Air Force. She's also a licensed realtor here in Texas, as well as the president of an incredible organization that we really, really want to get down into the meat of what they do, and that is what's known. The entity is known as VA Rep Houston. And I'll let her do her introduction as far as what VA Rep Houston is. But before we talk about VA Rep Houston, let's talk about Miss C.J. Johnson, Colleen Johnson, our good friend. What's going on with you, lady?
I am just happy to be here. The weather is beautiful. It's this opportunity, and so grateful and proud of this Cup of Joe morning show that you've started. This is wonderful, and
thank you.
It provides insight in a lot of ways to a lot of people in a different manner, and so
and that's the intent. Absolutely. And we're going to say tag a friend, tag a veteran, anyone that you know that has served in any capacity, and that would probably be my first question. What defines a veteran, and why is it so important to have veterans identify themselves as being veterans?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that because one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is there are veterans out there that don't identify as veterans because they're under the misconception that if they didn't serve in an area of conflict during their time of service, they're not a veteran. If they served in the Guard, they're not a veteran. And the main component or requirement for a veteran is if you served 90 consecutive days of active duty, and you received an honorable discharge for whatever branch of service, that is one of the main components that qualifies you as a veteran. It doesn't matter if it was during a time of conflict or just your service. And the interesting thing is a lot of people, when you're looking to maybe find out about your benefits, a lot of people are like, are you a veteran? And don't ask, are you a veteran? The first question should be, did you serve?
Yes. Right.
That's how you open the conversation to start exploring and going from there. But as veterans, one of the things, it's service before self is the mentality. And there are veterans out there that feel that they're not going to use their benefits because they served their time and that was what they were supposed to do. And so they don't want any compensation for that. They don't want anything. But the mindset that we have to, and it took me a long time to get to this point, is the mindset that we need to adopt is we earned these benefits. These benefits are there for us because we earned them during our time of service.
Right.
So,
as a matter of fact, I would look at it as a fringe benefit.
Yes.
Because you served in whatever capacity that you served, you have literally earned the right to have benefits. And obviously, being a mortgage person, the main benefit that we talk about is the VA loan.
Yeah.
That, of course, allows for any veteran who qualifies. And we're going to talk about how they would know with the COE and things of that nature. Maybe you could bring a little insight on how they would know what their entitlements are. But it's important to know that the VA loan is probably, and I won't even use the word probably, I would tell you that from a statistical standpoint, it is the best performing loan that's out there, meaning that there is less defaults on a VA loan than on an FHA, conventional Fannie or Freddie. It's just, of course, as lenders, we keep those type of statistics. I actually shared that I think one of the reasons that VA loans outperform others is because of the individuals who served. They have now we say anyone that served in the military has probably a higher level or a higher commitment, a higher exposure to discipline.
Yes.
And being orderly. And I think that plays it and lends itself, as a when you buy a home, So with that, let's talk about some of those things here. Some of the benefits of being a veteran, and you can either piggyback on the home buying side or every matter of fact, before we get into that, please, VA Rep Houston. Let's talk about that. What is it? How was it formed? How have you become the president of it? And let's talk about that for a moment.
Okay.
The whole thing.
VA Rep is the acronym for the Veterans Association of Real Estate Professionals, and it is a national nonprofit, the only national nonprofit that is committed to financial literacy education, VA loan education, and it came to fruition in 2011. And the reason behind that was there are 5 components or 5 things that the Veterans Administration is tasked with allowing us to, as veterans, to be able to do. And that includes education, disability, and there are 2 others, but there are multiple organizations out there that fulfill the other 4 components. There are no organizations that fulfill the VA loan component requirement that the VA is supposed to, that addresses it and is able to educate not to educate the veteran
Mhm.
about their VA loan, the benefits, the misconceptions, all of that. So that's why VA Rep came to fruition. We
Mhm.
have chapters all over the country. VA Rep Houston is our local Houston chapter,
Whoop, whoop.
and our main mission is VA loan education within the real estate profession.
Mhm.
In the real estate profession, unfortunately, veterans have been experiencing where mortgage lenders and buyer's agents have been discouraging them from using their VA
Right.
loan
Right.
because of the reputation, the bad reputation that is in the real estate community. And VA Rep's goal is to educate real estate professionals
Mhm.
so that we're able to in turn educate the military and veteran community regarding the updated and accurate information about the VA loan. A lot of the things that are being disbursed, yes, the VA loan used to be a mess.
Right. And I think if I may just jump in from a lending standpoint, and I think it bodes itself and shows itself in the real estate side as well, it's just unfamiliarity with the program.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, if you're not really familiar with anything and then you have a limited exposure, and in that limited exposure, it looks more complicated than
Yes.
this route, they'll try and take the other route. But, we can't, from a lending standpoint, and certainly I'm imagining from a realtor standpoint, but really from a lending standpoint, we cannot steer a client to or from any particular loan program. Does it go on? Does steering still go on? Of course it does. But is it against the law yet?
Yes.
Still the same? Yes, it's against the law. It's against all types of RESPA and TILA violations when you steer a client to a preferable loan. When I say preferable, I mean preferable to them,
Yeah.
not preferable
Mhm.
to the person
Mhm.
doing the loan, not to the actual end user who's getting the loan.
Right.
In other words, they'll say, let's do an FHA loan because I'm not familiar with the VA,
Yeah.
even though the VA would be a better loan product for that person.
For that person.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
And-
that's not cool.
And that's another component. I mentioned buyer's agents, but also listing agents.
Mhm.
Listing agents will say, my seller won't accept a VA loan.
Right.
Well, come on now. Your seller is listening to the information that you gave them.
Right.
So there was something I saw that came across my feed the other day, and it really resonated with me. And it was, thank you for your service, but you can't buy my house.
No, someone actually said that.
No, that's the
Oh, I see what you. Oh,
that's
Jesus.
the mindset, the premise.
I thought you said somebody put. I'm like,
That,
who
but
has
that's
the?
in essence, that's what they're saying when a VA loan is not
not
an
accept-
acceptable form
Right.
of financing to
Right.
purchase that home.
Wow.
I mean, that resonated with me because that summarized the issue that we have,
Right.
where agents are saying their sellers will not accept a VA loan, but it's we get thank you for your service all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But
then,
what's
okay,
not
we
spoken
can't buy your home.
exactly. I hear it now. At first, I thought you were saying someone.
No,
else.
no, no.
Malcolm, I was about
And
to,
it's possible somebody said that.
my
you don't know.
Lord, I thought I was
It's
about to.
possible, but it came across my feed that it was just a concept
That's the sentiment,
because that
essentially. Yeah.
summarizes
Mhm.
what's been happening.
Right.
When
Right.
someone says, well, I don't want to, I want to sell my house, but VA loan is not one of the financing options that I want to look into, that I want to accept or explore.
And the strangest thing about that, and the beauty of what we're doing here, before I start doing my Charles Barkley impersonation, have you noticed that Charles Barkley starts a sentence that he never finishes?
Yes.
So I don't want to be that guy. But one of the biggest issues is that, again, the VA loan, if you look at the construct of the loan, it's actually one of the best loans out there. And it's not just because it's 0% down. It's also because it really caters to the individual veteran in the sense where it loosens the guidelines and compared to other loan programs. For instance, beyond the no down payment rule, there's also, of course, the debt to income ratio that we have to be concerned with any loan product. where I've done VA loans where the back end debt to income ratio, and if those who don't know what the back end debt to income ratio is essentially a formula that lenders use to, it speaks to the affordability and your ability to repay, right? So they don't want you to have, look at this, they don't want you to have too much debt, and there's a ratio that they essentially use. And the bottom line is, with FHA, for instance, it's a little bit more lenient than conventional loans. But when you look at VA, I've done a VA loan with 63% back end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the loan performed just as well as any other loan you would expect. And more importantly, for that client, they now qualify for Morehouse. It might have been, if they would have done a VA loan, if we would have done a conventional loan, they probably would have qualified for a home that's probably $70,000 or $80,000 less. That probably didn't fit their need. So I just personally believe that the VA program is a wonderful. I'm looking to learn even more, as you know, but to think of it as a program that's being frowned upon.
Yeah.
I mean, where does that even originate?
Because the VA loan used to be a mess. And hold on, side note. Hey, Cindy.
There you go.
Say hi to Cindy. Because the VA loan, there were so many restrictions, etc.
Right.
Before.
Mhm.
It has come a long way. And the mindset behind that was the Veterans Administration wanted to protect the veteran. They did not want the veteran they wanted to provide as many benefits to the veteran that served,
Mhm.
Initially. And so there were a lot of restrictions as to what the seller had to pay as
Mhm.
opposed to what the buyer could pay for. But a lot has changed.
Right.
A
Right.
lot has changed. And in a lot of instances, the real estate professional has not, and when I say real estate professional, that's all around, whether it's realtors or mortgage lenders,
Mhm.
have not taken the time to educate themselves to obtain the updated and accurate information about the VA loan.
Right. Right.
And another part of it, another component of it, is for us to be able to educate the military members and veterans so that they are able to vet or even educate their real estate professional to determine whether or not that representative that they're going with
Mhm.
is truly proficient and able to, streamline and make their process smooth. Because
Mhm.
one of the feedback we get a lot, pushback, is the VA loan takes too long to close. Well, what that boils down to is that mortgage lender, unfortunately, is not proficient in processing
Right.
a VA loan.
Mhm. Because no one
That's
speeds.
what it
No
boils
one
down.
speeds in the fog. I always say that no one speeds in the fog, and that's a perfect. That's an analogy for a situation where the reason it's taking that lender so long is because they're not used to
Mhm.
that loan program, and of course, if the loan officer themselves don't know all the preliminary documentation, and they're having to go chase the client down. First, they're being chased down for certain, like a needs list.
Mhm.
Then they have to chase it down from the client, and before you know it, now that process has been elongated. But again, from my experience, the only thing that I have noticed with the VA loan, the modern VA loan, that could cause a longer time would be the actual appraisal. And even then, I have not had a VA loan that did not close within 30 days.
Right.
I have not. I'm just saying.
Right. And that's the thing. And in some instances, mortgage lenders are aware of the time limit
Mhm.
for the appraisal. And so they structure their process
Exactly.
to, okay, we're going to order the appraisal at this point.
Yep. Mhm.
To ensure that the time frame,
Yep. But it's
you
not
know,
good.
that
You're not
does
going to miss
not
any milestones because of
impede
that.
us closing
Exactly.
in a timely manner.
Exactly.
And once again, that goes back to the mortgage lender being proficient, but also as a real estate agents can educate themselves. Yes, you don't have to learn or know the mortgage process, but certain things you're able to share
Mhm.
with the mortgage lender to help them speed up the process in
Mhm.
some instances.
Mhm.
But also there's the the ability to, it gets a little more complicated when the veteran has a service-connected disability.
Right. Right.
There are certain companies that have military names associated with their companies that the representatives, one of the things to be mindful of is just because it has something like that in the name does not necessarily mean that that mortgage professional is proficient in VA loans, because what they do is they hire representatives, loan officers, and they don't necessarily vet them to verify that they're proficient
Right.
in VA loans. And so knowing first and foremost, and I'm just going to give that one main component that tells you. Oh, sorry. That one main component that tells you. Apologies.
Trust me, I did the same thing, and I listened to the playback. Like, what is that thunder? Who's knocking at the door? Like, that was you, Joe, when you were tapping the table. Going, I just want to tell you.
I'm learning.
CJ is like me. She CJ plays the drum. Oh, she plays the drums when she talks, ladies and gentlemen. But go ahead. Go with your point.
Is that when the certificate of eligibility, that is one of the main components for anyone to determine whether or not your mortgage lender is VA loan proficient.
Yeah.
When you say you need to find out when is the COE pulled? You don't say certificate of eligibility, you say COE. And if there's a puzzled look on their face,
like this,
that's not, when they know you're a VA buyer and they have a puzzled look on their face when you say COE,
right,
that is not someone that's proficient in VA loans.
Right.
You know, certain things that you can do to just initially vet whether or not that's someone that's going to be able to streamline your process.
And I believe that, again, this is true with any loan program that services certain segments of the population, that you want to have a high level of proficiency, because who wants to work with the novice, especially when we're talking about the largest financial capital outlay that we're going to have in our lives, which is that of a house. Who wants to entrust that to someone who doesn't know the programs or don't know how to navigate even within a particular program? So I think that speaks to professionalism.
And something I don't want to say don't give mortgage lenders that want to service a VA loan, if they're new to it, up chance. But you need to, if they have partnered, they can partner with someone that's proficient so that they can learn.
Right.
But you have to, it's a case of having the veteran be their guinea pig is just not, in a lot of instances, in most instances, does not bode well for the process.
Right. Right.
But, you know, if that mortgage lender partners with someone that they know or has a resource that they can tap into that knows, and they're staying with that resource, having that resource go through them. Because I'm not saying we do want as many mortgage lenders to be proficient in the VA loan as possible.
Right. So
it's not a case of, okay, new mortgage lenders, but strategically align yourself or make connections with someone that is proficient in the VA loan that would be able to assist you and give you the initial information that you need to start the process and guide you through that. So it's not a, you know, I'm not saying don't use a new lender. I'm just saying that we want the process to be as smooth as possible for the veteran. Because I get a lot of veterans that are like, yeah, I used my VA loan, but it was a painful process.
Right. Right.
And they don't necessarily want to use it again because it was a painful process.
Right. Well, one of the things that this is just from personal experience by being around VA Rep Houston, you have mixers and things that you guys put on, and different types of events that actually, if you're there as a lender, it behooves you to be there. But certainly if you're there as a lender, you're going to pick up so much knowledge. Remember the last one we went to when you all were having a VA challenge? It was a board of.
It was Battle of the Lenders, VA Loan Edition.
Right. Talk about that for a moment, because I learned a lot from that event. It was really nice, and I actually won a television. I ain't gonna talk about that part though.
Yeah. I was trying to get him to give it to me, but he wouldn't do that. Yes, Battle of the Lenders. Battle of the Lenders is a an event that a lot of, or some organizations have, where they have the different mortgage lenders highlight or answer questions regarding the different loan products. And because we are VA loan focused, we had the concept, okay, let's do a Battle of the Lenders, but do it VA Loan Edition, which is just primarily VA loan. That's
information
all the questions.
On VA loans, yes.
But we wanted to make it more interesting. We like to have events that are educational and fun. We want to incorporate the two. And September was Suicide Prevention, Mental Health Awareness Month. And VA Rep, one of the components of VA Rep is our Stop, Drop, and Push campaign, where Stop, Drop, and Push is for the 22 a day average veteran suicides. It's to build visibility regarding that, and also what the stop is for you to stop, drop down on the ground, and do 22 push-ups as a it's basically to create awareness, but also it's towards suicide prevention. And sometimes what happens, and that's what we did, we incorporated that where it benefited our Stop, Drop, and Push campaign, where we donated funds towards that initiative. And so the way we incorporated that was there were 3 rounds of questions that our moderator is very proficient in the VA loan that posed to our panel. We had a panel of 4, and the loser of each round had to do 22 push-ups. Well, I mean, some indicated they didn't know that, but oh well.
I saw a lot of people doing push-ups, as a matter of fact.
But it was fun, and they kept. They did continue to. They did the push-ups, those that were not, but it also was an educational opportunity and even the panelists admitted that they learned things also.
Yeah, absolutely.
The attendees, it was open to the public. It was not just real estate professionals, it was veterans, everyone was able to gain knowledge, and also along with the mortgage lenders, and have some fun, seeing some people do some push-ups.
Right. And
we raised funds for our Stop, Drop, and Push campaign, which was for suicide prevention.
And let's put a pin in that for a moment, and let's pause on that, because the holiday season is typically a season where depression is highest, suicide is not just on the rise. It just around the holiday season, especially this holiday coming up, Thanksgiving and Christmas, people who's lost a loved one. My wife is one that lost, and she doesn't mind me saying this because it's just part of our story. Her sister's on as well, that lost their mom on Thanksgiving Day. And if it weren't for efforts that we know that we take as individuals to offset what easily could be a very depressing time of the year. So I just want to sort of speak to that and couple that with the issues of PSTD and, what is it called?
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
You know what I'm trying to say. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you. I know what it is. I just got
PTSD.
big lips.
And I know they had gotten to the point where they changed it where it was just PTS, post-traumatic stress, because they did not want that disorder. There was an initiative to change it to just PTS.
But I guess that's
Something of that
coupled
sort.
when you couple. I mean, for an everyday civilian to have gone through whatever we've gone through, and to have depression rates be and suicide rates be higher during these holiday seasons, I would imagine for a veteran, who served, especially in wartime,
Yes.
times of conflict, really have a challenge with that.
Yes.
You know,
The suicide rate, in my humble opinion, is one of the things is in the military, it's a structured environment, a very structured environment.
Mhm.
And so, in a lot of instances, exiting the military into the civilian world
it's fearful.
is, I mean, it's like just, it's the civilian world is like a free for all
Mm,
to us,
mhm.
coming from that structured environment. And so, in some instances, because of the experiences that we witnessed or had
Mhm.
in the military, there are residual effects.
Mhm.
And then coming out into the civilian world also and having to make that adjustment. In a lot of instances, it's a case of, I can't handle this. I can't, how can I function in this environment
Right.
with no guidance and
No structure that
no
I'm so used
structure?
to. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the holidays, of course, is for some, they may have experienced loss during the holiday season,
Mhm.
while deployed, while in certain areas, those types of things. And so it's just a lot of things piled on. And the military teaches us, or at least it taught me, that's one of the things that was drilled into us, is you suck it up.
Hmm.
You don't
Pull
complain.
yourself up by your bootstraps type of thing.
You suck it up.
Yeah.
You shake it off and step over it and keep going. And so all of that builds up inside, and it affects you mentally. It eventually affects you mentally. And so just being mindful of that, and for me, the way I see it with a lot of veterans is that, especially when they come back from an area of conflict,
Mhm.
is for the public to be mindful that there are underlying things going on or that have happened that you're not privy to.
Mhm.
I mean, when in some instances, okay, in some instances of PTS, oh, they lost someone, etc., but you don't know the depth of what they saw, what they experienced, those types of things. And so to be mindful that sometimes when a military member or veteran removes themselves from, they remove themselves, be mindful of that, let them know that you're there for them, but don't necessarily take it personally.
Mm.
Sometimes it's a case of, and I know I can say this for myself, sometimes it's a case of, I have to regroup,
Mhm.
right? And it's just a lot of that factors in, plays a part, especially the holiday season. Everyone is with their family. It's a happy time, supposed to be, et cetera, et cetera. But for some, it highlights or enhances their losses
Right.
or
Right.
their experiences.
Mhm.
So, the unfortunately, and the rumor that I've heard is that the number of military and veteran suicide has increased from
Mhm.
22 a day. So it's a case of check on your military and veteran family members, friends,
Mhm.
and in some instances, you have family members and friends, or you have at least friends that are veterans that you don't even realize.
Right.
because some don't identify as veterans. So just check on people, and especially during this time, check on them. And even if you send something or text them or call them and they don't respond, just let them know. I'm just checking in to see, call me or text me or that kind of stuff,
Right.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and again, and ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know who you're listening to, this is Miss C.J. Johnson. I'm going to give her information because I got my cheat sheet here. She is she's an Air Force veteran, the chapter president of an organization, VA Rep Houston, and that was my first time hearing that VA Rep is actually an acronym. So what is it? What is an acronym for?
Veterans Association of Real Estate Professionals.
Oh man. So its intent is to educate veterans, and not just the veterans themselves, but certainly the real estate and the mortgage communities at large, to ensure that we have a better working knowledge of VA loans and the benefits of the VA loans, so we can start utilizing the loan programs for veterans who qualify.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm an advocate for it because a lot of people in my family are military, though myself, I never served in any wartime or conflict or non-conflict. I just took a test, scored very well with it, and they tried to get me to go, and I was like, nope, I got cold feet at the last minute to go to the Navy. But it's all good. I want to take a moment and give the call-in number, and I saw you had it on the screen, but it's when I was trying to type it out, it left me. But we want to get a little interaction if we can. We are here talking with Miss C.J. Johnson again, talking in general about VA Rep Houston, but more specifically about just the holistic approach and health and well-being of veterans. And again, the educational part is so important, but you tapped on something that I just think is important. And I heard it years ago. It was called, it was a rap album where the guy says, I'm going to entertain you, but I'm going to educate you.
Yes.
And the name of the album was Edutainment.
Oh.
You see, threw that one on you. So edutainment is an approach that I take seriously when it comes to disseminating information to someone or to a group of people. If it's not educating them, if it's not entertaining and keeping their attention, the education will fall short, and again, it's just something that we just learn to do. And again, I need the last 4 digits of the call in, sir.
832-560-2885 is the call-in number, everybody. That's 832-560-2885.
And I'm going to repeat it here for the Facebook Live because audience that I'm in front of here, it's 832-560-2885. If you did not hear Mr. Malcolm share that, again, it's 832-560-2885. If you're a veteran or have a question, maybe you're a loved one of a veteran and maybe have a question or two, we would definitely deem now that the coffee lines are open, the coffee break lines are open. Feel free to give us a quick call in, and what we'll do is do our best to get to your questions. But again, we're here with C.J. Johnson. So Miss C.J., what else is a point of concern and interest that needs to really be a point of deficiency that needs to be addressed to the veteran community at large, and even more specifically to the veterans that are found in Harris County?
There's a veteran resource line. I've been getting recently a lot of information or inquiries about veterans that are facing homelessness and or are in a position where they're not able to, they need help.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that, and I'm gonna find it right now. One of the things that a lot of veterans don't realize is there is a helpline that you can call, and you let it's a national call center for homeless veterans. It's called the National Call Center for Homeless Veterans. But the way that call center works is you call in, you let them know what your concerns are, what resources you need, and they will provide the connections and or the guidance for you to get assistance within the VA realm.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are not even aware of the phone number. And I want to put that out there.
Let's go ahead.
The number is 877-424-3838. Recently, a lot of veterans have been facing homelessness for various reasons. And so calling that number will get you the guidance and resources to the resources that are available in your area.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that number again is 877-424-3838. And that's VA Helpline, National Call Center for Homeless Veterans. Again, because this is to me, it's a phenomenon in our country that the ones that served now deserve to be served, but they are oftentimes the ones that are overlooked the most, and they are the most underserved.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I'm attracted, if that is the word. I'm under the allurement of working with VA Rep Houston and other. I work with the Texas Veteran Land Board as well,
Yes.
of course, through
Anthony.
our buddy Anthony.
Yes.
He does an incredible job. I've done a few events with him where we were just out in the community, just helping. And I love that they take a holistic approach. It wasn't just a lender there. It was people there with from Aetna, from health insurance, and there were mental health advocates there, because we know that, again, as a human being, you need these types of advocacies. You need
Yes.
someone to advocate on your behalf. How much more for those who have served, and as a result, some of them come back with an overdose of trauma that's hard to mentally and socially overcome. So we need to really focus on our veterans. So, I think this is a conversation that needs to be had. It needs to certainly continue, and we're going to continue it. Right, we're getting close to the top of the hour, but let's go to your life as a realtor. One of the things that I know is happening, and before I can, we can get right to that in our NAR if you want, or we can talk about yours. I know that's a lot.
Boy.
But you're a realtor.
I am.
So let people know what your heart is, even as it pertains to your vocation as being a licensed realtor in the state of Texas.
I have been a realtor. The end of this month will make 11 years.
Okay.
And I am a CDRE. That is my designation. That is my specialization, in addition to my advocacy for veterans. And a CDRE is a certified divorce real estate expert. I was the first in Houston. There are, I think, approximately 5 of us in the greater Houston area, approximately 250 of us in the country.
Certified divorce
real estate expert.
Wow.
Yeah. This designation, it can only be obtained through the Alumni Institute. And the mindset for our founder, Laurel Starks, her mindset, she created this designation because she, for 14 years, basically was trial and error within handling divorce listings. And she came to the realization that there's a disconnect between the family law community and the real estate community.
Wow. Big time.
Because as realtors, we're taught, we're used to sellers, even if they're not together, they're on the same page. They agree
to
overall
list their home
as to what to do,
Yeah.
how to process it, all of that. And in the divorce realm, that's not the case. Even if they start out like that, it may come down one day, something sparks the other, and everything goes in different directions. And so my designation, I obtained that designation in 2018 because I realized that they identified the disconnect between the family law community and the real estate community. And unfortunately, um, in the military and veteran community,
Mm-hmm.
divorce is high
I
for
would only
numerous
imagine.
reasons.
Yeah, I would only imagine.
For
Yeah.
numerous reasons.
Mhm.
And so it's a case of that also reinforced my commitment to the CDRE designation, other than the fact that our goal is conflict, is cooperation, not conflict,
Right. Right.
because the parties are going through a lot of conflict as it is
Yes.
already,
Mm-hmm.
and they're dealing with a whole lot of other things, not just the sale of the home.
Right.
And to have a real estate professional that is mindful of that
Mm-hmm.
is key.
Oh, absolutely. Because I would imagine in any divorce situation, there could be a lot of volatility and emotional.
There's a lot of moving parts.
Oh, I would only imagine.
Lot of
And
moving
listen to this. It's the process of buying and selling a house is already stressful within itself. You know what I mean? It just is.
Yes.
And to put that into a vacuum with those that might, again, be suffering from post-traumatic, situations and going through a divorce, that becomes like a powder keg.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would imagine that someone should be certified to navigate in those, what I refer to as shark-infested waters.
Mhm.
Because if you're not, oh God, you could be doing more harm than good.
Yeah.
You know?
I've heard agents that said, if someone comes to them and says that they're going through a divorce, or they have a house that needs to be sold, they're going through a divorce, they're like, I'm not touching that.
Right.
Because it has come down in some instances where they get to the closing table, one party sees the other, and they're like, I am not signing,
Right.
because that's going to make them happy. No,
Right.
it has come down to that. And for my designation and my focus, I've always been a resource is what drives me, being a resource for the veteran community, for the family law community. I'm just one of those people that I like to be a resource, to be able to help and connect people,
Mm-hmm.
right? With whatever they need. And so with my CDRE designation and with VA Rep Houston, it's like I collaborate
Mm-hmm.
with other professionals, other organizations that are of the same mindset.
Right. Right.
Right. And so that's who I am. That's how I am. And that's how I'm going to continue to be.
Right. Well, no, that's real, because some people have occupations, but then again, there's some of us that have what we call vocations. It's deeper than just what you do for a living. It's who you are and the capacity that you believe that God has placed you on the earth to fulfill. And that vocational identity is something that is more real to us, and it has nothing to do with chasing a commission or anything like that. And I know that sounds real cliche, but there is a major difference when you're in a commission-driven industry.
Mhm.
There's a major difference with someone who is proficient at what they do, and they're not driven by commission. They're driven by the help, the aid,
Yes.
the filling in the gaps that's needed. And that's something that's unfortunately in this environment, it's somewhat of a rare occurrence, but some of us are still out there. So I
Yes.
salute you for that, sincerely.
Thank you.
You
And
know, sincerely.
that's a part of the CDRE designation. We have our own code of ethics,
Mm-hmm.
which prohibits us, because some agents, when they hear divorce, they're thinking, oh, this is the potential for foreclosing.
Oh Lord.
The listing,
Mm-hmm.
if they have a buyer interested in that listing, and then representing both parties
Right.
to purchase if they're in that position.
Yeah.
But our code of ethics as a CDRE prohibits us, because we're supposed to be neutral, unbiased.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't be neutral and unbiased if you have a vested interest in the potential buyer of this listing for these divorcing parties, or if you're representing one of the parties to help them purchase a home while you have this listing.
Right.
So we're prohibited from any of that double ending, because we are truly about minimizing the conflict, minimizing or eliminating the perception of bias.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes the parties think, oh, you're on this person's side or you're on that person's side.
Right.
No, you have to be neutral and unbiased. And our training is based on the BIF method, which is brief, informative, firm, and friendly. And it's
Brief, informative, firm, and friendly.
Yes.
The BIF.
Yes,
method.
it's a BIF method. There's a book. There are 3 or 4 books out there about the
I'm
BIF
learning.
method. Yes.
Mhm.
But also our training as CDREs is based on conflict resolution,
Yes. Yes.
because that's what we're dealing with between the parties, between the sellers in a lot of instances.
Give me the BIF method one more time.
Brief, informative, firm, and friendly.
That is good stuff.
And there are books, there are, I believe, 4 different BIF books out there that go in depth as to in different circumstances and different environments. And our, like for our CDRE designation,
Mm-hmm.
our founder, Laurel Starks, she wrote a book called The House Matters in Divorce.
Mm.
And that in itself gives an overview
Mm-hmm.
as to all the different things
Okay.
that can come into play for divorcing parties, or
Wow.
most of the different things, not all.
Right. Yeah. Because there's
Can
always going to be some
encompass all.
one-offs. Yeah. It's no book that
Yeah.
or any one person is going to be able to encompass it all.
Yeah.
I always like to go, CJ, to my loyalists who are on Facebook and do a quick shout out. And I just noticed that one of my buddies who is from Michigan, Rod Clausell, is he's a vet, and he had a comment, and I want to address the comment. He says it is a lot that they don't tell us veterans benefits. Man, put a complete sentence together, Rodney. He says it's a lot that they don't tell us veterans benefits when our time is done in the military.
Yes, they don't give, we have a debriefing, for
Mhm.
lack of a better word,
Mhm.
when we're exiting the military.
Right.
And at least during when I exited the military, they just, it was where, first of all, you're of the mindset, that short-term mindset, where it's like, okay, I'm getting ready to get out. And then they throw all this information at you and you don't grasp all of it.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you exit the military, you're just on your own.
Wow.
You're just on your own. They are putting things in place to try to address that,
Mm-hmm.
because they have come to the realization, not as quickly as I feel they should have, but that it has had a negative impact. Them just giving us an overview, not connecting us with the resources, because in most instances, they know where we're going. When we exit the military, they know where we're going, to give us the resources that we can tap into to the benefits, to
Mhm.
access the benefits that we qualify for. And then here in Texas, there are so many benefits. In Michigan, I'm not familiar with, but there are, but the main place that you should be able to go to is your Veterans Administration office
Mm-hmm.
and find out. But people are, I get this all the time when I ask certain questions about, for example, with housing for veterans, affordable housing for veterans, and I hear all these affordable housing initiatives and they're building, and I'm like, okay, do you have anything in place for veterans? And they're like, oh no, the VA takes care of that.
Oh.
No, they don't.
Right.
No, they don't. There are misconceptions. I had someone tell me the other day, I thought as a veteran, you're taken care of. You get out and they take care of you. You're set. No, that is not the case.
Right.
We're in this structure. And then when we come out, we're just on our own, floundering, adjusting, first of all, to our new reality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then wanting to tap into, not knowing where to go to tap into whatever benefits we qualify for. And then sometimes it's a hit or miss depending on who you connect with as to what information you can obtain.
Right.
So,
And I
yeah.
think people like yourself have to become, well, you are an advocate. But I believe what we're going to be doing is just putting an emphasis as far as getting information out there. And this broadcast is going to be one. Again, as small as it is, we believe in seed time and harvest. So it's not we're expecting a harvest at this point. But the point is, our hearts are turned, our ears are inclined to the pleas of our brothers and sisters who, again, have served, and we want to be an advocate in the sense of getting information to them.
Yes.
So I want to give that number again.
Yes.
The VA HELP. It's a national call center for homeless veterans, and that number is 877-424-3838. Again, it's 877-424-3838. No one should have to suffer through that, homelessness and things of that nature, but certainly not those who have served, only to come back and find that our nation doesn't reciprocate.
Mhm.
And that's a whole different conversation. I'm a war movie buff. I mean, I love movies of war. Don't ask me why. I just do. I mean, like Saving Private Ryan, which is one of my favorite movies.
Steel Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal
Jacket.
Saving Private Ryan. You have, man, you got me there.
No, it's a few of them that just really stand out, and I like those movies just like I like movies of courtroom interaction.
Mhm.
You can't get me. You listen. I can sit back and watch a movie that's got an interaction with like A Few Good Men.
You can't handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. I mean,
Oh my
So
gosh.
you didn't call in for that. You certainly didn't come here for that. But
Listen, we're having fun.
that's what it is, though.
Yeah.
But no, we have to be advocates of matter of fact, there's an organization, My Brother's Keeper, right? And just the concept of that is the question that's the rhetorical question is the word I'm looking for. The rhetorical question that's asked in the Bible is, am I my brother's keeper? And the answer is absolutely we are. We are our brother's keeper. How much more so if our brother is in need, and I say our brother, meaning our mankind, our brother, our sister, are in need because of something that they did to serve the greater good that's left a deficiency in their lives. It should be a group effort that we would come together to help mend, the deficiencies.
Mhm.
And again, that's very idealistic on my part. I know, CJ, but that's just where my mind is when it comes to it. And whatever little we can do to help and lend ourselves to that effort, I think we're doing well. So with that being said, guys, it's halftime. Let's take a quick break, and we're going to get right back at you. You gonna stick around? Or you
want me to stick around?
Of course I do.
Okay.
I think it's some deeper dives we can go into a lot of things. So yeah, this is the Cup of Joe morning show. And listen, I am Cup of Joe. And look, that's CJ.
Hello.
CJ don't play, y'all, just so you know. She up here acting out like she's, we got a story to tell about these puppies that everybody knows that we own. We'll talk about that in a minute. But we're at halftime, so tune in. But definitely for those who are inclined, this second hour, we want to hear from you guys. So please, locally, or if you're calling in from another area, it's cell phones, y'all. So it ain't no charges, no roaming fees anymore. The number is 832-560-2885. Again, 832-560-2885. You can start calling in about 4 minutes as we go to our intermission here.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for all of you out there in Real Talk 100 Radio Land, on YouTube, on Facebook, in the assorted groups that I have shared the video to. Thank y'all for the likes and the shares so far. Thank you so much. We're about to go to a quick intermission. I'm going to leave the flyer up on the screen so you know exactly what you're listening to. Today, we have a guest in the building. I'm going to put her information up just right quick before we go into this break, so you'll know exactly who's speaking to you. This is Miss Carlene Johnson. And this is her information. We'll be right back, y'all, on the Cup of Joe Morning Show on Real Talk 100 Radio.
Cup of Joe Morning Show. 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 Cup of Joe Morning Show.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. What I was saying before the music, was trying to interrupt me. We are back. And I don't mind the music playing twice, man. I really don't. But listen, we're here with Miss CJ Johnson of VA Rep Houston. But she's also part of the Sears Group. What is this here you just gave me?
JPAR, the Sears Group. That's the brokerage I'm under.
Okay. So you talk with your boy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And she just gave me a pamphlet entitled "Hiring an Expert in Divorce Real Estate," and I'll just show the trifold pamphlet here. But I wanted to just talk on the break. You made mention of women veterans issues.
Yeah.
And you met my dear sister-in-law, right? And she's been a help and a resource just from her own personal experience as a veteran. And she helped out my nephew, who's a retired Army veteran who has increased his disability percentage drastically off one conversation with Ms. Rita. So Rita, my nephew, thinks the highest of you. But let's talk about that. What are some of the issues that are probably more exasperated when you're dealing with that it's a female now? Because my goodness, it's always one. Let me just say this: there's always, if we're talking about stress during the holidays, that's one thing. But when you're now in a I call it a protected class, an individual class like that of veterans who served, especially those who served in war times, then that's exacerbated. Now it's not just the everyday person dealing with the issues of depression and suicidal thoughts. You couple that with now this situation, and it makes it like a powder keg. So I would imagine, I was sort of alluding to that, if it's issues with males, with men coming out of the military and having different types of conflicts and issues and having to readjust, it has to be a certain set of situations that are pretty unique to women coming out in that same situation.
Yes. I can give my personal, when I first exited the military, I did not identify as a veteran simply because there was a perception or of what a veteran looked like.
Mm.
A veteran did not look like me in any way, shape, or form. And so I did not identify as a veteran. And the interesting thing is, even in the military and veteran community, the assumption is that the male is the veteran.
Yeah, that's the first assumption. And
The
most people's
male
not.
is the veteran.
Mhm.
You know, they'll ask the male, where did you serve? But they won't ask the female. And so that is another thing. And really, women, because we are the fastest growing demographic of veterans right now. We serve. We're June 12th is now designated as Women Veterans Day.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah,
June 12th.
June 12th is Women Veterans Day, because we are an underserved. It's like, okay, veterans are underserved, but then there's another component. Women veterans are even more underserved.
More so. Yeah.
And so it's to be mindful of the fact that people women, may be veterans and you don't realize that. Don't assume that when you go somewhere and there's a veteran in the room and they say, there's veterans. And there are multiple times I've gone places and I'm the only woman veteran. I've gone where they have panels and all they have are males as veterans.
Right.
And it's like, okay, women served too. So it's to be mindful of conversations with individuals. It's not just asking a man, did they serve? Ask the women also.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it crazy? After all of these years, we went through women's suffrage and all of that. Here we are in 2023 and women are still being overlooked.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Then there's that misconception that we didn't serve like the men did.
Wow, that's crazy. I'm sorry, y'all have to go through that. That's so. How does society change that? Women being overlooked.
It's being more mindful, conscious, acknowledging when a woman veteran, acknowledging it, acknowledging them. And now I'm saying that, but there are some veterans that don't want to be acknowledged.
Right.
So you got to be mindful of that too. And that's male and female that don't want to be acknowledged for numerous reasons. But it's a case of, if you do discover that a woman is a veteran, that is a veteran, at least I know for me, I appreciate when someone acknowledges my service. And then when I'm in company with others, that they acknowledge she's a veteran. And sometimes the look on people's face is like, women,
right?
And so that helps to build the mindset and the knowledge, or to cement that in your mind that yes, it's men and women that served in the military.
And I have a question even on that. And beyond the gender discriminatory perceptions, what else can you, even from personal experience or just knowledge in the position that you're in, are some of the other struggles that women veterans are dealing with on a regular basis?
Well, I mean, there are while serving, there are situations that arise for women veterans, but the interesting thing with regard to authority, assault, those types of things. And the interesting thing about that is it happens to men too in the military.
The hazing and bullying and all that goes on.
well, and assaults.
And I've heard of rape,
Yes,
and it's a code that they can't
Yes.
say anything.
because it's
know?
you suck it up, and
Right.
especially I think for women, this is my humble opinion, for women, we're in the military, we're already viewed by a lot as you can't pull your weight
Because you're not a man, basically.
because you're not a man. And then getting where it's a case of something happens and there's that conflict in your mind is, do I, because of the suck it up, you just suck it up and keep going. Do I report it? How is that going to affect my service? How is that going to affect how I'm treated? All of those things. And that goes both ways, really, for males and females. But for females, it's a case of we're already viewed as, for lack of a better word, in some instances, less than, because we're not as, you're not as impactful or you're not pulling your
The
weight as much.
physicality, yeah.
Yes. And
Mhm.
then for you to go and complain or say that this happened to you, it's like, well, there's some perception that you asked for it or you're in the military, you should, those types of things. So,
Wow.
and there's just so much. And I mean, the Vanessa Guillen situation, that one, that her experience is not isolated.
Right.
That's not an isolated experience.
So you would imagine that that's a lot of suppression that is
Yes.
taking place, where they don't want. Like, it's almost like the old adage: what happens here stays here.
Mhm.
They don't want to put a. There was a movie that sort of talked about that, and I know it wasn't G.I. Jane. It was another movie. I know it was the General's Daughter. I told you I like military movies,
Mhm.
and this movie with the General's Daughter. This general had a daughter who was in the military, and she really was fighting against the controlling mentality of her dad. And at the same time, she just wanted her dad to hear her. And because he just would not hear her and would not acknowledge her as an equal to his other soldiers,
Mm.
she basically acted out in some ways, right? And it really spurred a situation that spurred this, where she got raped by on a routine, what do you call it? A routine activity, a training activity out in the woods and such. And because she was so proficient, she was scoring higher. She was actually competing very well, and that's why she was so overly ambitious in these areas, because she was trying to win her dad's approval. Well, it turns out she was getting underneath the skin of some of her fellow soldiers, and when they had an opportunity to do something to her, isolated from the rest of the people, they ended up gang raping her in the movie. And when she went to her dad about it, her dad, as opposed to coming to her as a dad and trying to comfort her, he basically was more of a general, basically saying, we got to just sweep this under the rug. No one can know about this. Forget
Protecting his
it
command,
ever.
protecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He basically, because I guess she was at, I'm assuming that she was at West Point, but wherever she was at a place where he didn't want to ruin the reputation of the institution. And it so crushed her. And I'm not going to give the whole movie, but it reminds me of the conversation as you were just talking, that there are things that are subliminally, our society is everything that goes on in society is now going on in a microcosm on a military base. If it's sexism going on in our society, what makes you think it ain't going to be sexism going on the military base? Racism that goes on in our society, I'm sure, especially back in the day, I heard war stories from people that these are real stories, that they were like saying, N-word, go home. You're fighting a white man's war.
Mm.
Why are you even here?
Mhm.
Right. And then to go through all that they went through, then to come back and still be second and third class citizens in our society. Yeah, it made a lot of people very despondent. I mean, I would only imagine. I'm only speaking from hearsay,
Mhm.
but I would only imagine that from being a female in a sexist society, it'd be like a football team taking on its first female, teammate. Can you imagine the hell they put her through to be accepted?
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's more societal issues that rear its ugly head. But if you want to elaborate on that a bit, you certainly can. But
One of the things I can say is that the newer generation
Mhm.
entering the military, they're a lot more vocal.
Mm.
They're not going to put up with, and in some ways, I admire that. That if something happens, that they're going to say something,
Right.
right? I admire that because one of the things that I feel is things keep happening because we don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It keeps happening because we don't talk about it. And when you talk about it, it builds. It gives the person that's doing that.
Confidence.
Usually, it when we don't talk about it, it gives them confidence. But when you do talk about it, in a lot of instances, it gives them pause
Mm.
to be like, you know what, I may need to think about this or not do this because this person, especially if it's someone that they know is vocal, and in most instances, they're not gonna approach someone that's vocal.
Oh, they're going to look for a weakness and try and
They're
exploit the
going to look
weakness.
for a weak
Oh, yeah.
person. But also, it's just the newer generation to me, they're a lot more vocal. They're not going to put up with,
Right.
all this stuff going in the military and stuff, even though some of their perceptions about the military is like, okay, you do realize you're in the military, right?
Right.
But in some instances, their mindset and how vocal they are about things is a benefit,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
especially going into the military. So it's an ongoing struggle all around. I think for veterans, things are improving on a lot of levels. Like we're going back to benefits for veterans.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, like with the Section 8 program. Well, it used to be Section 8.
Mm-hmm.
They changed the whole program in order to distance themselves from that stigma. So it's now the voucher program.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people don't realize there is a veteran component to the voucher program. It's called the HUD-VASH program,
Mhm.
where it's specifically for veterans. It's a
Mhm.
voucher program specifically for veterans that have fallen on hard times that need to, and it's a program that takes the veteran, the voucher is to assist you with your rent, but it also puts them on the path to coming off of that program and
Right.
accomplishing the goals.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of landlords don't realize that. And then I found that when I, mention it, landlords are looking at me like, what? The veteran component. Are you like, because I'll be like, are you open to the voucher program? Oh, no, I don't want Section 8. Okay, what about the veteran component, having a veteran with a voucher? And they're like, what?
Right.
And so it's education.
Mm-hmm.
For people to know that these resources are out there and opportunities, etc. So
Mhm.
it's just, there's so many resources out there that people are not aware of. And once again, it goes back to education, conversations, being curious,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just all around in the big grand scheme of things.
And I think the education has to be an education for all parties involved. Because imagine if you, excuse me, I'm trying to stop a sneeze from happening. Imagine if you were to educate only one side now we're educating the veterans who have the vouchers, but there's still this stigma that the voucher is going to be turned down or frowned upon by the landlords, then obviously we have to target the landlords as well, so they can understand the importance of it. And it's not like if someone, and I did with this on on FHA loans as well, because there's some sellers that don't want, they'll even say they only are taking conventional offers, and we don't see it that often. But to me, it's sort of like discriminates against someone based on a stigma that they have with FHA loans, you know, and not every FHA loan client is someone with bad credit and no money.
Right.
There's other benefits to the loan program that serves that individual. And I'll be the one to say, hey, here are both programs. We can make the comparison and choose which one best fits your situation. And in a lot of instances, the FHA loan, you know, works just as well, if not better, because you're not having to put as much money down the whole thing. So I think this is a good segue, because I don't want to get anybody, you know, pre-Thanksgiving, you know, getting all down on the subject that we're talking about. It just needs to be addressed, though. It needs to be talked about. Malcolm and I talked last week or the week before last? The week before last, we had a conversation about the trauma that individuals go through as children that they're still dealing with as adults. But the issue is most of us who have those childhood traumas have not had any kind of education towards advocacy to know how to effectively deal with it. We just suppress it, or we laugh it off. We keep it down deep, but it comes out in the most wanted times, because if somebody is pressed, it's a trigger, you know. And a lot of times relationships and things that happen in the relationship can trigger all those, the flood of emotions. So we came up with, I told Malcolm that we came up with something that I use for my personal, in my personal life. And it was exposure brings disclosure, which through Christ brings closure. And you just tapped on it, because the exposure is that it's been exposed, that it's an issue. It's here. It's real. I don't care if it happened 30 years ago or 30 minutes ago. It's still here. It's the disclosure part that many of us struggle with. That's talking about it, getting it off your brain and out. Talk about it. And then once you talk about it, and then there's a call to action that allows Christ to come in through the word of God to bring closure to that situation. And if we don't take on some type of resolve to it, we'll be living with this, I hate to call it a demon, but we can be living with this demon. And I'm not talking about a person. I'm talking about something that's internally in that person that they've been dealing with for so long. And we have to address it, and we have to be real with it. And in our community, in the Black community, let's just be 100, we do not subscribe to that. We matter of fact, we look at someone going to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist as a weakness, and they're crazy.
Yeah. And it used to be kids should be seen and not heard.
Right.
And then what happens here stays here.
Right.
And we grow up with that mentality. And so it's like, you don't talk about it. And then if you do, of course, you know, with the stigma about therapy and all of that, it eats at you.
Right.
It eats at you. And for some people, it manifests itself into diseases.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
It's eating at them at the inside. So It's like candid conversations, open conversations.
Right.
Because it's a case of, for someone to talk about it, they have to feel that the person they're talking to is open to listening.
Right. It's got to be a safe environment.
Yes.
Absolutely. And let's continue this thought, because if it's not a safe environment, if it's me, I am not going to expose myself to additional ridicule. Why should I expose that? Because Malcolm, you wouldn't have a clue that I had that issue unless I was man enough to talk about it. And whoever the listening party or parties, if they did not create a space for me to do so, or if they betrayed my trust by their response to my open and candidness, that becomes a problem as well. Right. So we can't pass judgment, because one thing I have a pet peeve. Let's talk about this pet peeve that your boy Cup of Joe has. I have a pet peeve when someone says, I'm gonna look at my camera when I say this. I know exactly what you're going through.
No, you don't. You ain't never been there.
What bothers me when people say that is because they don't understand that it could be the same situation, but totally different circumstances, totally different reactions, totally different effects and ill effects. So for me to be as crass as to say someone's mom died, so I go to them and say, I know exactly how you feel because I lost my mother too. Well, she lost her mom. First of all, she's a female who lost her mom. I'm a man who lost his mom when I was a kid. She just lost her mom 3 weeks ago. I don't know exactly how you feel, ma'am. I don't know the relationship you had with your mom. I don't know any of that. So for me to say that I know, and it's not just the word exactly. I just think it's the concept of me coming to someone or someone coming to me saying they know how I feel. You don't know how I feel because you're not me.
Mm.
And I
You
think
don't
it's,
process things. Your mind doesn't process things the way my
You
mind
know what I'm saying?
processes things.
and it's neither good, bad, or whatever. It's just that's just a statement that I believe is full of insensitivity. You know?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
I have a quick example, Joe,
Mhm.
with my mother. You know, I lost my dad in August last year.
I didn't know that, man.
Yes, sir. That's
Condolences, brother.
that's him in the window over there.
Okay. Yeah.
And so many people go to her and I'm just checking on you. I know how you feel, and it
Makes
hurts her to no end
Mhm.
because she's like, I was with this man 50 plus years. How can you tell me? How can you fix your mouth to say you know how I feel?
Right.
So I do not tell anybody that. I don't care if it was divorce, a breakup, lost a job. I don't
Right.
care. Like you just said,
Mm-hmm.
I might take it differently than you do.
Right.
So I can't speak for you.
Right.
So that irks me too.
Yeah, I learned that from my big brother, to be honest with you, man. I have a brother who has since passed on, but when his wife passed, he stood at, we had I always get personal on these calls. I don't know why I just feel such an open transparency here, but it is what it is. But when my big brother, before he passed, he was at our house in Flint, Michigan. Me and Cindy had just closed on the house, and we were showing our family members, gave them a walkthrough of the house and everything. And I recall this very well, that he was out in the driveway with me, and he was just talking about how much he misses his wife. And he broke down in tears, and this is a big strong dude, man. He just broke down crying about it, in the conversation. But his tears and the sadness that he was expressing quickly morphed into indignation,
Mm-hmm.
because he was saying how people were saying to him, I know how you feel. Because when I lost my mother, they were equating the closest person in your life. When I lost my mother, I didn't know what to do. And of course, he's listening to this person, and it's making him cringe,
Mm-hmm.
because he's like, you don't know, you ain't even on the doorstep of what I'm going through right now, because your husband is right there. It's different. It's different when it's a major difference. If it's, first of all, even if it's my mom and your mom, there's going to be differences, as I just alluded to. But if you're talking about my mother compared to now my wife, it's a whole different set of emotional. I mean,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? I can't imagine it. And I know people have lost a child. I'm not going to be the guy that's going to say I know how anybody feels with anything in that regard, because again, I think it's just a matter of being very insensitive to the individual. Everybody has individual thoughts and responses. And here's the thing I want to say on this, guys. We can put a cap on this. It is okay to grieve. It is not a timeline. I have people that talk to me from a ministerial perspective, and they always say, I know it's been a year, man, and people tell me I should get over it. I was told by somebody, a family member one time, that I need to get over the fact that my sister passed away. And I have a sister who passed away in March 27th of 2020. So it's not like that was that long ago. It was right before and during COVID, and the guy who was saying that to me wasn't trying to be crass, wasn't trying to be insensitive, but it was one of the most insensitive things that anybody could have told me. And being a minister and having that ministerial mind, I understand that we are to grieve, but not like those that are without hope. But there is no book, no 101, no, even the Bible doesn't tell us specific instructions on how and how long to grieve. So who are we to tell somebody they need to stop grieving the fact that they lost their mom and it's been 10 years? That void is still there in that person's mind.
On that same token,
Yes,
with
ma'am.
for individuals that grieve a short period of time,
Right.
it is not for you to judge them.
Thank you, CJ, because that's the other side of the spectrum. One, people think they're grieving too long. This side, they think that you haven't grieved enough and you're moved on with your life. And now people think that you're, I don't even want to get into that side because I've seen not family, but people that are close to our family. Somebody passes, a husband passes, and the wife re-engages within a certain time frame. And there's family members that's frowning at her because she's just being fast now, because she's now re-engaging faster than they feel that she should have. And we got to stop putting our own stuff on other people, because if other people put their stuff on us, we wouldn't like it. Matter of fact, we don't like it.
No.
Have you noticed that the people that put stuff on you are the same ones that don't want nobody to put anything on them? Ain't that a weird dynamic?
Yeah. Very. Say that again. Isn't
The
it
people,
weird?
listen, the people that will put their own, if it was me, I would do this on you, are the same ones that over the top hate when somebody does that to them.
Yeah.
It's like a weird dynamic.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be different if it was like
Double
the person.
standard.
The person that did that would also be open to have somebody doing it to them,
Mm.
but it's not like that. It's just the opposite,
Right.
in my experience.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. We have Mr. Vale. Vale is tuned in on YouTube, and he's right along with you. I just want to make sure we put him in the conversation.
Right.
I hope
see
I'm
that.
saying that right. VL or Vale is tuned in on YouTube. He says exactly. He says blessings to all, first of all, and then he comes back and says exactly. Everyone's experiences and processes things differently. Absolutely. And then he came back again and said this.
Let's pull that up. Also very true. My mother's sister, for example, is very materialistic, while my mom is more emotional. So her sister didn't even come to her own mother's funeral cause of some materialistic reasons. Yeah. And Val, that's again what we're talking about, man. I know this sort of veers off what we were, our main topic, but every topic has subtopics, and every subtopic has another subtopic. In other words, everything has tentacles that it reaches out, but the core thing is what the core thing is. So I hear exactly what you're saying, man. But again, the whole point is we can't dictate how someone else handles a situation that we ourselves have never been in, because we've never been in their shoes, even if we've been in that situation. And I think that's true with people with military experience. It's
Yes.
I think it does a disservice if someone is handling their PTS in what's deemed to be a less effectual manner than someone else, and that one who thinks they're dealing with it better is frowning on that person, not knowing the dynamics. We don't know the genetic dynamics. We don't know the chemical dynamics. We don't know the biological we don't know anything. And these are people that we think we know. We don't know what they're going through to that degree.
And a prime example of that is two people can go through the same experience.
Yes.
And one of them ends up being one of those 22 a day
Right.
because of how they process it.
Right.
And then another person is thriving. They look like they have everything under control, et cetera, et cetera. But they've muted, hidden their emotions. That's how they process.
Right.
Everyone is different. Our genetic makeups are different. And so the way we handle things, military service, there are individuals that will say they had they have been in the military and served and retired. And their entire time in the service, they loved it, they enjoyed it, etc. And then there are others that, and in some instances they say that and they experience things, but they've buried it.
Right. Suppressed it.
Right. And so we don't know. One of the things no one knows what goes, that song, no one knows what goes on behind closed doors.
Behind closed doors. Mm-hmm.
And so it's not for us, it's for us to, we can empathize,
Mm-hmm.
we can listen
Mm-hmm.
with an open mind. That's key.
Right.
With an open mind, and try to be there to be a resource, a sounding board, those types of things for people. But it's not for us to say, you should do this or you should do that. And I know, I'm going to say this, that I know I'm one of those people that people come to me and they'll scenarios and I'll be like, no, you need to do this. And then I look at myself and I'm like, you ain't doing it.
Right.
You in there saying, but you ain't doing what you're supposed to do.
Right.
So self-reflection, because we deal with things differently. We handle things differently. But I'm mindful of that. I've become very mindful of that. And I'm like, I'm telling this person to do this, do that, do that. And I'm sitting here going, you're not doing it.
Right. And that's again, I'd rather us as a society be what is the word you just used?
Self-reflection.
Self-reflective than being self-absorbed. Because many people are just self-absorbed. They just believe because they got over it and the manner that they did that you ought to do the same, And we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. And this might sound crazy, and it does sort of tie into this, but it's just a societal the different societal mindsets, right? I think that it's a poverty mindset for someone to tell their son or someone in the generation that's following them that since I had to strap up my bootstraps and go at it, I didn't have nobody advocating for me, so I did it myself, and I'm the better man for it or the better woman for it. You do the same. I think that perpetuates I call it a poverty mindset, because a lot of times we're supposed to give back to the next generation so they don't have as much resistance to the top that we've had.
Yeah.
Because it's not about our success. Our success is to open the way to a successor.
Mm-hmm.
And how are we opening a way to a successor if we're closing doors behind us
Yes.
that we had to walk through?
You got to go through everything I went through. You got to experience everything. Well, I mean, that's why there's such a huge difference between our generational wealth and other generational wealth.
Other people's generational wealth.
And
Absolutely.
the thing is, it's not to say that you need to set your children up to just be, able to do whatever they want to do.
Right.
But it's not a case of they need to struggle like you did.
Right.
Because all that's doing is you can't, they might get a little further than you. And then the next one, if they do that with their child, may get a little further, but it's like, why?
It's not lending itself to putting the next generation a foot or a yard or whatever measurement ahead of where they would have been, had they not been preceded by you. So if I've opened up a business and I've run that business successfully, shouldn't I be an advocate for helping others, especially minorities in this regard, right? And this is not, to me, it's not based on them being relatives to me. It's the fact that the need is there. So shouldn't I be one, if I'm an African-American male who has businesses, shouldn't I be willing to pour into the next generation, pay it forward to the next generation, information that was withheld from me, that I had to get on my own? Why do I have to make them get it on their own?
Yes.
That's ego. I mean, that's egotistical. I don't even know what that is, because that's just something that it doesn't bold itself well to building generational wealth. It literally keeps us in the struggle.
Yeah. On that note, on another show here at Real Talk 100 Radio,
there is no other show than the Papa Joe Morning Show. But go ahead, bro.
Ah, that was good.
That was narcissistic, but it was a joke, ladies and gentlemen. That
Narcissistic.
brother full of himself with his 15 viewers. This is a Cup of Joe morning show. There is no other show on Real Talk Radio. Don't make me
It's
lose
okay.
your point, man.
It's okay. I love the humor. On another show here at Real Talk 100 Radio, it's often discussed life insurance.
Mhm.
And in a discussion with one of the agents with a potential client, one of the potential clients said, the spiel. Let me give you the spiel 1st. The spiel was to the potential client. You could end generational curses. You could help your children, and the response was, "What I want to do that for? I don't want to leave them nothing."
Right. I've heard
I
that,
was
bro.
just like, what? Why would you want your children out here struggling, your spouse out here struggling, your aunts, your uncles, whoever you're leaving behind out here struggling? It's ignorance.
Man.
It's pure ignorance, generational ignorance, passed
Right.
down from centuries.
Right.
And I'm one that wants to end it. I'm doing everything I can. That's why I have Cup of Joe on here. That's why I'm glad he approached me about this show, because we want to teach and change lifestyles. We want to change mentalities,
Mm-hmm.
one mentality at a time, and one show at a time.
Right.
Know, so
no, that's real talk, man. I used to sell insurance back in the day, and I'm very familiar with that sentiment. Matter of fact, I've done a lot of things in my life, CJ, both good and bad. But I actually was a memorial estate counselor, and as a memorial estate counselor, what we would do what we call a pre-needs funeral arrangement. And in our community, Black community, it was like I might as well came in with war paint and like a witch doctor, coming in going unga bugga bugga with spears, and we're gonna teach you a new. No. They didn't want to hear any of it at the whole point. They didn't want to hear it. But I learned to take a different approach, because nobody wants to hear about or talk about their own demise.
Right.
But if I'm a married individual, if I'm a married man, married to Cindy, to the point of the insurance, some insurance, like life insurance, it's not death insurance. It has nothing to do with me as the insured. It's who it's who benefits from this policy. That's why it's called a beneficiary, because they benefit from a decision that I made to replace my income in the event that something happens to me. I used to tell people back in the day when I sold insurance, it's like offset of our point, but your insurance people are going to agree with this. I know, because it's what I learned, and it just makes sense. If I make $100,000 a year, right, as an individual, and my wife, and I'll put it like this: my household depends on that 100,000. And when I die, guess what else goes? Unless I have some type of passive income, that income's going as well. But here's the fact that people don't think about. Statistically speaking, husbands are statistically 4 to 5 years older than their spouse. Just the way it works out. And unfortunately for the dynamic, women live a little longer than men in America. So there's a statistical study, in fact, that says that statistically speaking, your wife, your significant other, may outlive you or live after you 10 additional years. So if I make $100,000, and this is to the benefit of the insurance policy is to replace my income, to not leave my household, which is my wife and everything that's left to handle, lacking, then wouldn't it behoove me to get $1 million policy? Because she's going to be around for 10 more years. But if you start talking to somebody about $1 million policy, they'll be like, man, that woman going to kill me if I got $1 million. You have to do it without their knowledge, because they know that there's $1 million policy.
That's crazy.
It's going to be some forensic shows coming up out of Harris County.
But it's
real.
The way that I see it is to look at it as viewing your loss. Your loss is going to be make a huge impact on your family. And they're dealing with that loss, and will have to deal with everything else that comes with it.
Right.
So wouldn't it give you comfort to know that you are putting things in place that will help to ease
Right.
their sadness, their discomfort, all of that. That's how I view it.
Absolutely.
I view it as it gives me comfort knowing that in the event something happens to me, they're going to have to deal with a lot of things,
Right.
including the loss of me. I mean,
Right.
that in itself is
Right.
going to be devastating.
Right. And there's no dollar amount that can offset that. So again, for anybody just heard what I just said about the $1 million, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that everybody
Right.
got to have $1 million policy. The point is, and what Ms. CJ is elaborating on at this point, is my loss, as the loss we suffer as surviving spouses.
Mhm.
There's no dollar amount
Mm-mm.
that will clear up that loss. But the reality of it is that loss does leave a void in our finances that needs to be addressed. And to do it preemptively is just wisdom, because you can't do it post-op.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And the fact
That's
is
game.
they're dealing with the grief. The
Right.
grief itself that we were talking about, before, is the grief is a huge thing that they're going to have to deal with. And then for them to have to figure out, okay, financially, how am I going to make it? How am
Mhm.
I going to survive?
Mhm.
Those types of things. So it's I love the fact that you pointed out the fact it's life insurance for
Mhm.
the life of those that are left after you're gone.
Absolutely. I don't need insurance. And I listen, I'm not to get on another subject matter, but it's the same mindset. When we're talking about what people traditionally call a funeral, I refer to them as homegoing services, right? The homegoing service is not for our dearly departed. It's just not. Because our dearly departed is just that. They are dearly departed. And I would just imagine that if heaven is what the Bible describes, I'm not going to be thinking too much about anything happening down here anyway. I'm just saying. The point is, when we have a funeral, it's for the family, for the friends, for the individual. That individual has just left their earthen suit here. That's not even them laying there. And the evidence of that is I hold your hand right now. As cold as your little hands are right now, CJ, they're going to be a whole lot more cold if CJ ain't here no more. I mean, let's be real. And I'm not trying to be morbid. I'm just simply saying that we put so much emphasis on the wrong thing and miss the main thing.
Yeah.
And I see people, when I was a Memorial State counselor, I saw people put Walter's entire life insurance policy into his funeral that lasted for 2 or 3 hours and was gone. I mean, once all the dust settled, the bills kept coming in. You know what I'm saying? He had a little $25,000, $30,000 policy. Not to say that's going to stretch a long ways, but why put all of that into, this casket that has, spinners and elbows and all that kind of stuff? Who needs all that on the casket? But that's what people do, because out of emotion and out of, guilt, in a lot of cases, they feel bad. So they say, nothing's too good for my Walter. So Walter likes shiny things. So I'm going to use all this money up. And that's not the best usage of those funds, is all I'm
Right.
saying.
And so with that is, as the potential deceased, you make your own arrangement.
There you go.
Have that paid for.
Or at least talk about it and set some things in
You set
motion.
things in, so it's like,
Yes.
this is already paid for. This is what I want. This is how I would like to be sent out. Because a lot of them do it thinking, well, this is what he would
This
want,
what he would've
or
wanted.
this is what she would want.
Right.
And so you put things in place, so there's no doubt.
Right. And I think that's just wisdom there. And that's being preemptive. And it's not being morbid. I think, again, culturally, our society, we don't like to think about stuff like that. We just don't want to, even though we know it's appointed upon every man wants to die. It's just what it is. But we don't want to think about it. But to not even think about it or talk about it, is something. Me and my wife were just having a conversation the other day, and we were having a conversation on this type of thing. And then she just asked out of the blue, would you want to be buried here or back in Michigan? And I was like, dang. Michigan. But now it's out in the open. Now she knows you. The same here. And it wasn't a morbid conversation because we're both here talking with one another where it's not the burden and the emotional distress and the worst day of your life after Walter has just died. Now you got to go make decisions on putting Walter's remains away. And my mother had a very profound wisdom about her. She used to always say the same thing that your mama probably said too. She said, don't, boy, go to the grocery store hungry. You know why? Because you're going to tend to buy unnecessary stuff. Because your hunger is going to guide and lead and control you to do stuff impulsively. Well, how much more would grief in that same way make you impulsive? Where nothing's too good for my husband. He likes shiny stuff. Well, my wife knows JoJo likes shiny stuff, but JoJo ain't got to have no big shiny casket. I mean, let's be real. I mean, I ain't gonna talk about what I do have to have, but I ain't thinking about it like that because it's just, again, when you go into that situation unprepared and it's one of the most, if not the most, emotionally charged time in anyone's life is the moment that you realize somebody has passed away and now you have to shift to make arrangements for that person. It's very, very traumatic. And as a Memorial State Council, I know it sounds like it's like off the beaten path of what we're talking about, but we're talking about people. Yes. And we're talking about people under stressful situations and having advocacy meaning either in the form of other people or entities that can help them navigate through those really tough times. You know, some of these things can be addressed by the fact that we address them early. Yes. We talk about it before it becomes a situation. You know, make arrangements. My aunt did the same thing. She said that my Uncle Junior passed. Uncle Junior basically, first of all, not only did he pay for everything, Uncle Junior picked out his suit. He picked out the singers. He picked out the music he wanted played. He picked out everything. She didn't have to guess what Reverend Curry wanted because he laid it all out. And it was in his, like a memorial estate book. Right. You know.
And for her, was that a relief?
Absolutely. She spoke on it like we didn't, you know, even right after the funeral, after the homegoing, we were at the repast. She's saying, your uncle is, you know, he loved me so much.
There you go.
That's a show of love.
There you go.
To take that, you can't take the pain away from the situation.
It can help minimize it.
You can minimize it because you don't want to have additional pain of having to pay stuff, especially no disrespect to the funeral director, and they play it up. I know you love Walter. Ma'am, let me just ask, how are you going to pay for this? Well, Walter had a life insurance policy, and I'm going to use that to pay. He said, you mind if I take a look at that policy? It's $35,000, huh? You'll be happy to know we can handle all this for you in one spot. And again, you're going. I'm not trying to make light of it. I am, but I'm not trying to be disrespectfully so. But it happens all the time, guys, and it's just it's what it is. If you know anything about being in a funeral home, you know that they play on the emotions of the bereaved, and if they give them the life insurance policy, what that funeral director who does not have the love of God in his heart, but just the greed of business in his heart, he would take that policy and he would see it as an open check. It is his budget towards putting together the best homegoing that Walter would ever have wanted. And I know you only want what's best for Walter, don't you? Nothing's too good for my Walter. Boy, the devil is a liar. Wisdom reigns supreme, and it makes the foolishness of this world just that, foolishness. So we're going to conclude this conversation here. We've been talking about a lot of stuff, but we're really talking about the welfare of people, and again, people that have been through a lot, and through that, by that I'm saying they have served our nation. They deserve now to be served in whatever capacity that the need is. They need to have advocacy. And I know there's companies out there. So before we close, I want to just give what was it before the National Homeless Veterans, and we're going to put it on both screens here. Help for veterans in the form of the National Call Center for Homeless Veterans. I want to give that number. It's 877-424-3838. Again, that toll-free number is 877-424-3838. There's other entities. I want to have you certainly feel free to give your contact number if you're okay with that, or even the number to your for VA rep, if that's something that you would like to do. If not, I won't make you.
Feel free. Anything veteran related, you can visit varephouston.org. All of our current board members are there with our contact information. Mine is 832-457-4316. And this is not just for VA loan questions. This is anything I can do to help veterans or help answer questions or provide guidance or resources. Feel free to use that number, 832-457-4316. In addition, just letting people know that the second Thursday of every month, VA Rep Houston, if you go to varephouston.org, you can sign up for our Demystifying VA Loan Myths class. It's free of charge. It's via Zoom. It's a live opportunity where we go through the 12 most common myths. And as an attendee, you have the opportunity to ask the presenter questions regarding your VA loan. And we do that the second Thursday of every month at 10 a.m. And that's one of the things that VA Rep Houston has in place because we want, it's open to any and everyone because we want to get the updated and accurate information about their VA loan out there. But also, I mean, if you're on there and you have questions about other resources or how to do other things, feel free to ask.
Absolutely. Well, we're getting the definition of prototype. But to close this out, let me just give you a couple of benefits of the VA loan. And the VA loan is a mortgage loan option offered exclusively to active military service members, veterans, and surviving spouses of those people who are eligible. VA loans are financed through private lenders like Cup of Joe's lender, Summit Mortgage, I'm just saying, putting it out there, and guaranteed by the Department of Veteran Affairs. And that's the main thing.
Yes. And just letting people know two things. One, just because it says no money down does not mean the veteran does not have any money. Yeah. It means that the VA guarantees a portion of that loan so that the veteran does not have to bring any money.
Absolutely.
Second thing, for veterans, it says no money down. That has to do with the down payment.
That's a down payment.
There are closing costs associated with your purchase. So it's two different things. There's the down payment and there's closing costs. The VA loan, you don't have to put a down payment, but there are closing costs associated with your
right, we're getting that mortgage. And we've talked about that exact same thing because we were comparing and contrasting different loan programs. And of course, I'm an advocate of whatever is the best program for the client. But the VA loan is a very good performing program. But just like the USDA, it's a zero down, but that does not mean that there's no money out of pocket. And people can relate to that, even if they've never bought a house, they bought a car. When they advertise zero down, plus, your tax title and license. So, you're not walking out of that dealership with that car with nothing, so the tax title and license is going to have to be paid before you can get contracted on that particular vehicle. So with that being said, CJ, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I had fun. We talked about a lot of things.
We went over a lot of stuff because that's what we do here on the Real Talk 100 Radio. We're going to have some real talk and keep it 100. Like how I did that, Malcolm?
Yes, sir.
I'm just saying.
I saw how you did that. I saw how you did that.
Well, let's do this. We're gonna close out. Let's cue up that last one, man. And you know how we do, Malcolm. We always leave it like a party, So you can do one or two. I don't care which one. Surprise me with it. And this is again Cup of Joe. And we're gonna see you again, same bat time, same bat station. This time next week. Is it? Yes. Oh my goodness.
This time next week.
We're going to have some stuff coming in the next couple of weeks. You thought CJ was informative, and she actually was, of course. We got some other stuff that we're going to be talking about too. because I think it's important that we bring it to you, the news that you can use, the information that will help change your situation. I'm Cup of Joe. We love you. We'll talk with you soon. God bless. Say bye today.
Bye-bye.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in to another edition of the Cup of Joe Morning Show. Y'all can tune in every Wednesday morning, every hump day morning from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. And I'm going to put the information on the screen, what his topics usually are about. That's what his topics are usually about right there. But today we were talking about veterans. We were talking about veterans today. Lots of information was disseminated today by Miss
CJ.
Miss Carlene Johnson. She is with VA Rep. Y'all go to VA Rep Houston on Facebook and find out more information about what was discussed today. You can also go to their website and find out more. Go to VA Rep Houston on Facebook to find out more information. That brings us to an end to the Cup of Joe Morning Show. Y'all tune in next Wednesday night. We'll see y'all. Y'all have
Wednesday morning.
What?
It's okay, man.
Live
People come at
bloopers.
10 o'clock at night, man. It's
Live-
10 o'clock in the morning, y'all.
Live bloopers do count. I am sorry. Join
messing
us
that.
next hump day, next Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on the Cup of Joe Morning Show.
Let's go.
Cup of Joe Morning Show. Cup of Joe Morning Show.
What you gonna come in next? Coming next week? Gotcha.
Cup of Joe Morning Show. Cup of Joe Morning Show.